and welcome. I am the Sterling, and today we'll be playing Going Medieval. In the last episode, on the back of building the industrial district, we built the food district, complete with its own market stall. Not to mention we built a new pub, Happy's Long Hog, giving us the ability to clear out some more buildings in the old district, making room for the new front entrance. And now in this episode, we're going to clear out some more, including the old pub. So sit back, grab a cold one, and let's get started. Right, so what do I want to build in this episode? Well, I want the dwarves to find religion by building a nice big cathedral, which is going to go in this area here. I've also got plans for this side as well, also revolving around religion. But I'll come back to that later on in the episode, as there's something else I want to do first. I want to clear out some more buildings out of the old area. First of all, I want to delete the old pub. We have a new pub now, so the old pub is no longer needed. But also, I want to destroy and relocate the tailor's workshop. And I want the tailor's workshop to slot in right here. I think it will fit nicely with the food district. Though I tell you, I'm getting more and more excited about clearing out the front entrance and getting ready to build the new one, especially the fact I was just reading that in the next few weeks, drawbridges might be coming. And that's something that I've been waiting for a very long time. And kind of the main reason I've been hesitant to actually start the front entrance, because part of the build is going to actually involve a drawbridge. I came up with two different designs for this front entrance. One didn't involve the drawbridge, just in case the series ended before we ever got our drawbridge. But since it looks like it's on the way, wow, I'm getting excited about that. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It's not even in the game yet, so I'm just going to pump the brakes on that for a moment. Because as I was saying, it's time to do the tailor's workshop. Now, the layout of the old tailor's workshop had a clothing store on the bottom floor, with the tailor's workshop on the second, followed by the home for the next two levels. The new tailor's workshop is not going to be as big as the old one, but it's still going to be a bigger building than all the food shops on this street. As you see, this here is actually the footprint for the roads for the rest of the buildings on this street, excluding our more specialized buildings, which are just huge. For you see, I want to make the tailor's workshop quite a bit bigger, only because I want it to be able to store enough clothing to actually clothe all our settlers. For both seasons, mind you, summer and winter. At the moment, we have 25 settlers, and so I want to be able to hold 25 summer clothes and 25 winter clothes. So I'm going to need 50 racks, and that's just not big enough. For once you add walls, and then you start adding the actual armor racks, as you can see, they take up quite a bit of space. That there's 5 alone. Now, if I want to be a bit generous and give it some space, that's already taking up a bit of room. Now, if I don't want to be so generous, that's still only 15. And there's our 25. It actually fills up quite quickly. And we need double that. Not to mention, we still then need to actually be able to fit in a tailor's workbench and storage for leather and cloth and wool and any other sort of thing that we're going to need to actually make clothing. Then we need stairs to the home if I am going to in fact put the home on the roof. I might actually put the home on ground level. I'm going to sort of just play around and see how I go once I start building. But as you see, very quickly, space becomes the limitation for this building. So before I go and do anything, I'm just going to cancel that. Done. Then I'm going to delete this road over here because it's in the bloody way. And now we're ready to start planning out the ground floor. So bear with me because I have no idea how I want to build this. I'm sort of just going to wing it. I have a bit of an idea of what I want, but like most things in life, I have no real clue how to execute it. Well, the first thing I do know is I'm going to want to extend this road up here, and I'll bring it across. But now we got the issue of the wall. Now I could just go ahead and do something like this, and then build up to here, but then we got this space at the back, and I really don't want to leave space. So to make things a little bit more unique on this build, I'm actually going to step it up. Something along those lines there. I can then go ahead and just fill it all in with limestone block and limestone flooring in the same manner I've been doing the rest of this district. I'm really quite partial to this two-tone look. Anything to take away from the bland colour of grey. I really am starting to wish at some point I was buying clay so I could actually put a bit of red into the city, but it's a bit late now for that. So now we got a bit of an idea of how big we want to make this. I guess I can go ahead and just run limestone block walls and have a look how that looks. And you end up with something that looks a bit like this. Now, will this work for us for what we got planned? It might very well do. Now, I know I want this to be quite open at the front. After all, it's meant to be a bit of a shop. Maybe something along the lines of this. And then I can go ahead and just add some floor. Now, I'm going to do it a little bit nicer than I've done the others. I've been using limestone flooring for the other buildings, but this one I'm going to use limestone block, just to make it a little more fancy. Now I can go ahead and start littering this area with racks. And then after actually having a bit of a play, there we go. That there is 50 racks. I tried a few different designs, but this one here seems to be the perfect balance between saving space, but also making sure it's not too cramped. As you see, we've got a 2-path block on this side and a 2-path block on this side, going to the front entrance, with space in between to get to the racks. See, I wasn't kidding when I said it would take up a lot of space now, was I? Which does not really leave us with much room to go building the home on the back. So it looks like the home will definitely be on top. So now that we know that, how are we actually going to get up to the second floor? I think I'm just going to put in a sneaky set of stairs up here. We're not really doing much with this space, and I can then encroach in the footpath at the back here. Though I'll have a bit of a play with that when we actually get that far, because now we're able to build the workshop and actual storage area. So pretty straightforward. I'll just put a wall across the back here, maybe adding some doors to enter the area. This room here, I will in fact use limestone, only because it is a workshop and storage area. I think this space over here in the corner seems to be the best place to go putting the tailor's workbench, if I can find the bloody thing. Ah, it's a sewing station. It's not a tailor's workbench. Call it the right damn thing, Sterling. Chuck that in there. Now, this is a workshop, so we are going to need wall tool shelves to get the bonus, like so. And now the rest of this area is just going to be for storage. It doesn't need to be a ridiculous amount, just as long as there's enough here to keep the workshop running. Though once we've actually got the clothes, the workshop will actually close down until such time as we need to replace those that decompose or get ruined. I'll set this stockpile for medium, and I'll set it to house all textiles. We're not overly picky of what they actually use to create the clothing. And I might even go ahead and chuck a couple of doors to the outside just here to make it nice and quick and easy for the dogs to actually stock up on all the textiles within the workshop. That way the dogs don't have to keep running through the actual shop itself. And then, as you've probably guessed, we're now ready to start building the home on top. Now, I know the floor is going to have to stick out here, as I'm going to have to extend the wall, so then the settlers can traverse to the top floor and not get stuck on a wall. Then I'll just follow the wall as follows, just like so. Fill in the floor, add an arch where possible, add an arch, and after having a little bit of a play, I've come up with this. So the bedroom has everything you've come to expect. There's a quality woolen bed, brazier, and wardrobe. And then the dining entertainment area has a pantry for the food shelf, a stone table and chair, and a backgammon table. I haven't put anything for the religious needs in there. I didn't see the point when next door will be the cathedral. How lazy would the dwarf be not to just go next door? And now we're ready to put a roof on this. And you get something that looks like this. I'm actually quite partial to the way the roof at the back has gone due to the odd design of the wall. It really just sort of breaks it up a bit. It's a shame that that's not at the front, because the front looks a little plain. But I think that will do the trick. Though looking at it, I think it could stand to use a few extra windows. It is a clothing shop after all. And now we're ready to actually go ahead and build this. But before we do, I need to come over here to the food district, because as it was pointed out to me in the comments, the actual production of food that creates the specialized food, so for instance bread, is meals. And so I need to set that to be the highest priority, so then they will first create whatever the specialized building is that they want to create. For instance, as I said in this building, bread. And then I'm just going to go ahead and do it for the other buildings. And then they should take care of that. Well, that's enough of my gas bagging, so now there's nothing left to do but hit play and let them get to work building the tailor's workshop. day 10 of summer 1381. And there's the new tailor's workshop in the new area. And I think that turned out quite good. And like I said before, I actually really like the way this roof steps down. And once again, it looks a little different to everything else on the street. I'm still keeping a bit of variety, which is really good. I'd really hate to just have this carbon copy the whole way across. Now, the way I've got the rack set up is this side over here is for the winter clothes, and then this side over here will be for the summer clothes. But as you can see, we actually don't have any at the moment. So we better come over to the sewing station and set that up. First off, we're going to create winter clothes until we have 25. Next, we're going to do summer clothes. And once again, we're going to set that up to do 25. We're not going to worry about hats, nor are we going to do wall tapestry or rugs or rush making, as I will actually have separate workshops for these things. The practice dummies are not always going to be created here, but for the moment, as we have nowhere else to create them, we are going to create practice dummies here in this workshop. But later on, I will actually set a designated area that is better suited for the practice dummies. We're going to set the practice dummies up to make 20. At the moment, we have a whopping 33. I don't even know why we have that many. And then it's just a matter of going ahead and setting up dismantle for items, which I'll do for all the items that we're not using. And I'll set that up forever. And I'll set up a second dismantle items for cloth, once again forever, but this time I'll set it up to do anything of the poorer quality. So we'll only keep fine to flawless. And now that's the tailor's workshop set up. Now, something I haven't done is put in some market stalls out the front. I wouldn't think there'd be market stalls out the front of this fine establishment, as it is a store on its own. So there is no market stalls out the front. And another thing that I haven't done is, now that we've got a pub and we've also got a great hall, we are now more than eligible to have ourselves a bard. Someone that will take on the role of a musician or even a joker. Hiya, bats! And that's when Warner Brothers sues me. So we're going to go ahead and set up a bard now. As I mentioned quite a few episodes ago, I've actually gone through and had a look of who the best candidate to be the bard would be. And I decided Garen, as he actually doesn't do much other than being a steward. And when you set up a bard or any extra role, you actually have to assign them that duty within their schedule, which takes away from any other job. If I set Garen up to be a bard during his standard work hours, then he will not be a steward during those hours. So I just have to go ahead, click on Garen, come down here to the right-hand bottom corner and click on roles where it says none. And to be a bard, he must have a speechcraft of 5, which he does, exactly 5. We need to have a great hall, and the settler has to have their own private quarters. We meet all these requirements now. So we're going to assign him the job. Do you want to assign Bard 1 to Garen? The settler will gain the following job preferences. Unskilled labor. Yes. Garen is now our bard. So now I must come into schedule. I'm going to set up his role duties to take place during 2 hours before work and 2 hours after work, as that's when everybody's eating and enjoying themselves in these fine establishments. And then he himself can have a little bit of leisure either side of that before taking care of his own tasks. Now, I've never had a bard in my settlement before, so this might not be the best use of his time. So I'm just going to have a bit of a play with it, see how he goes, and if I find that this isn't the best way to set him up, then I'll go ahead and have a bit of a play and fix it up. So now that Happy's Long Hog and the new tailor workshop are completely set up and ready to go, I think it is now more than safe to come over here to the old area and deconstruct the original tailor's workshop and the old pub, the Hobbit's Hammer. It's going to be sad to see the Hobbit's Hammer go, but like I've said, we have to move forwards. We must make room for progress. So there's nothing left to do but hit play, let them get their sledgehammers out and start knocking these buildings down. Day 3 of autumn 1381. And there we go. We have now deconstructed the old tailor and the old pub. Now we just have to go through and clean up all the mess that I've made. But nonetheless, that is an awesome step forwards. I am rapt that we are slowly making progress down here. We still need to go through and delete Thorlek's old home. That was also a library. We'll have to destroy and relocate the old storage. We're going to have to replace and destroy the stonemason, the hospital, and the furnace. And then we have to go through and destroy all our security measures that we've created, such as these two front towers and this big gate looking thing, which when it stands on its own, it doesn't look too bad. But we're getting ahead of ourselves because the next thing I want to create is a restitutionist cathedral, and I want to build it right here. First, I'll move these stockpiles out of the way, and now I've got a nice clean slate to work with. Now, before I go building anything here, first I must come up to the research tab, as there's a few things that I want to research. The first one being religious structures, which that's going to give us a restitutionist lectern, if I am pronouncing that correctly, and the Oak Brethren ritual circle. We're going to unlock that now for 35 Chronicles. Done. The next thing I want to unlock is religious structures 2, which that will give us the Oak Brethren wall decoration and the Church of Restitution wall decoration. It will cost 30 Chronicles and 10 textbooks to unlock. Let's do that now. Done. And now the final thing I want to unlock is religious structures 3. This will give us the large Restitutionist shrine made out of wood and the large Oak Brethren shrine made out of wood. Pretty sure there's other variants to it too. It will cost 20 Chronicles, 15 textbooks, and 10 theses to unlock. Let's do that now. Done. Fantastic. Now basically we've got everything we need to build the Restitutionist Cathedral. And it's going to look like this. We're just going to run a wall either side, like so, and come across the back here. I'm going to leave the back area here open. I've gone too far. And I'll just run across the back here like so. Unlike the tailor workshop, I'm not actually going to bump this up against the wall. I'm going to leave a nice little space here. Then as for the front, I actually want the entrance behind this pillar. So we're going to run this across here like so. Same on the other side, leaving about a 2 gap space either side. And now that I've done this, I've come to realize that I've actually put this side wall in the wrong spot. And with the power of editing, it's now in the right place. So I don't continue to make this mistake. Let's actually run the footpath. Now back to the front. The wall will come back 2 spaces and then it'll just come across like so. And then I can just go ahead and stick a couple of doors in, hiding the doors from the front, unless you come on the angle. Now I'm just going to use limestone blocks for the flooring, and that's the basis of the ground level complete. Now we can come into leisure and I can put down some large Oak Brethren shrines. They come in 2 variants. One's made out of wood and one is made out of limestone. Obviously we're going to create it out of limestone. It uses 120 limestone and 5 gold. Finally I have a reason for all my gold, other than making armor for Thorlek. We're going to put one at the back here and one on this side. Done. Obviously I will be adding a few more, but for the moment those 2 will do the trick. Next I want to build the Restitutionist lectern, and I think I might just put a couple down the back here. You only really need 1, but I want 2 because I like to kind of keep everything symmetrical, and so if I put it off center it will just drive me insane. Now if I come up here to the rooms overlay tab and click on Church of Restitutionist Chapel, you will see that we need at least 1 Restitutionist shrine and at least 1 Restitutionist lectern. That's what we have. We cannot have any Oak Brethren shrines, nor can we have any workshops within the actual cathedral itself. Now it's just a matter of going through, adding a few more decorations, such as Church of Restitutionist wall decorations, things of that manner, and just flesh this out a little bit more. And after a bit of a play, I've come up with this. So we have some shrines that wrap around the central pillar, and then we've got large shrines at either end of the cathedral itself. Then along the wall, which is a bit hard to see, we've got a mixture of Restitutionist wall decorations, wall banners, and wall torches. And I think that tops off the bottom floor quite nicely. Now for the second floor, which will be more of an open plan. Essentially all I want is either side to have a bit of a landing that can be walked along, and then the center will be open, giving the cathedral a bit of an open air feel. Just like so. Once again, I've put some more wall decorations on the walls and put some windows to really open up the space and give it some light. What little light we do actually get with inside the mountain. And that there is now the basis for the cathedral complete. Now I just have to go ahead and put a roof on top. Just like so. Now I've still got to go ahead and add statues and things like that when we actually get them. And not just to the actual cathedral itself, but to the entire new area the settlement, especially the palace. I still need to add wall tapestries, statues, as I said, paintings. There's still lots of things that I need to actually add to decorate up this area a bit better. But that's going to involve me actually creating some form of an art studio, which I've got planned for a future episode. I think I'm giving myself enough work for this episode. Now, before I go and build this, there's one last little building I want to actually build that connects onto this. Essentially, I just want to run a wall across here and then across here to here. I want to double it up and then I can go and add a roof in just a moment. This room here will act as a bit of a mausoleum. So I must come down to miscellaneous, and under unmarked grave, you got different variants. You've got the unmarked grave, you got a wooden and a limestone type of grave, and then we have a wooden and limestone sarcophagus. We're going to use the limestone sarcophagus. I'm going to put one here, one over here, one here, and then finally one over here. I'm then going to add a grated door here, and a ladder just here. I can then go across and add limestone block floor, and then do the whole thing again. One here, here, and finally there. That gives us space for 10 of our settlers. Hopefully this series we're not going to need it. Then I'm going to put an archway just here, run a roof across here, and then a bit of a slanted roof will go here, which now I look at that looks terrible. So I'm going to have a bit of a play and see what I can come up with the roof. But nonetheless, that's now the cathedral ready to be built. So there's nothing left to do but hit play and let them get to work. Day 10 of Autumn 1381. And there is the Restitutionist Cathedral and Mausoleum complete. When it came to the Mausoleum, I played silly buggers down here for a while trying to make the roof work, and then I came to realise, why am I making it so bloody difficult? So I ended up just slapping it on the back of the actual cathedral itself, and it worked out quite nicely. There's some greater doors at the back to enter the Mausoleum. It's 2 levels, and then we can come up these stairs here to the 2nd level, which then comes out onto these platforms here, which can also be accessed via these 2 ladders at the front here. And honestly, I think this turned out quite nice. And I've just come to realise I added Oak Brethren shrines either side. Yeah, that's a bit of a mess up. I'll quickly get them to actually replace those. It is now day 11 of Autumn 1381, and we've actually got the correct shrines in the actual cathedral. Bit of an oversight on my behalf. Nonetheless, that's now the cathedral finished. I've gone through and added a bit of variety among the walls, rounding some off, especially around the windows, to try and just give it a bit of a cathedral-y church sort of vibe. Once again, just working with what I've got. Now, the good news is, now that we actually have a restitutionist establishment, in this case, I'm calling it a cathedral, the game calls it a church, we're now able to appoint another new role, the chaplain. Now, once again, I've actually gone through all of our settlers just to see who's doing what, and I've been looking at Mavis. He's assigned to be a jailer, but there's a good chance that we're actually never going to get any prisoners. And so I feel that maybe it's time for Mavis to change role. I'm sure there's some sort of joke in there between a chaplain and a jailer, but I ain't even going to touch that. So we click on Mavis and come across once again to role and click on none. And if we come down to chaplain, he meets the requirements needed for the role, which are, he has to have a very large amount of religious alignment in Restitutionist. There has to be a Restitutionist chapel, and the settler has to have their own private chamber. He meets all 3 of these requirements. So we can now assign him as the chaplain. Do you want to assign chaplain 1 to Mavis? The settler will gain the following job preferences. Unskilled labour. Yes. Fantastic. Now we can come up to jobs, come down to Mavis, and just make sure that he's not doing either steward or hauling, because now he will hate that. He's unwilling to do it. We then go to schedule, and as we did for Garen, we just have to come down to Mavis, and we're going to set his role duties once again whilst everyone else is doing leisure, as that is when most people are going to be in the cathedral itself. We'll then set his leisure either side just after he's taken care of his role duties. And we now have a chaplain. This is fantastic. We are making so much progress in this episode. Now, since the dawn of Ironhold, the dwarves that settled here followed the Restitutionist religion, and thus it's always been a Restitutionist settlement, and all other religions were outlawed. Though, as new settlers settlers were coming to Ironhold and taking home, they brought with them their own religions, one of which being the old religion of Oak Brethren, to which the dwarves that followed this religion had to do so in secret behind closed doors. But the number of followers across the settlement has been growing for Oak Brethren. So thus Thorlek has decided to pass a law for freedom of religion because it works so well for the Romans. And he's even gone so far as to set aside some land, this plot here, for those of the Oak Brethren followers to actually build a place of worship for themselves. And so that's what we're going to build next. Unfortunately though, that will have to wait for another episode, as this is all the time we have for today. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.